Hi, this is Joe Wood, and I'm doing this video for my Fort Hays State course on reading and literacy. And the article that I chose to do a video on today was written by Dr. Brown, and it's on Edutopia, and it's the title of the article is Serving Gifted Students in General Ed Classwork. And I thought it was really interesting. I feel like a lot of times, you know, for me, at least personally, my focus is more on the other end of the spectrum. How do I, rather than how do I keep my gifted students engaged and challenged and whatnot, is how do I make sure that my, bottom 30% are meeting the standard. I feel like is and so I like seeing things like this, so that way it gives me a chance to kind of challenge the other end of the spectrum. At our school, we have a SAGE program. So we have a teacher here, and I have had a chance to chat with her a little bit here and there. Again, I've spent more time with our SPED teachers, um, talking through and discussing things than I have with our SAGE teacher, and so it was kind of refreshing to kind of read over this. And I thought, basically this article talks about the do's and don'ts. And one of the don'ts that they talk about is to make sure that you don't use your gifted students as basically a teacher's assistant. That's one, it's inappropriate, it's unethical. Now, it might be a little different if you have them as a TA potentially. Um, like a lot of times I'll actually, for my computer tech classes, the top kids, the kids that do really well, I actually try to recruit them to be like, hey, you want to be my TA next semester, and you can help out and and whatnot. So I can kind of, it makes it a little bit, but hopefully that's not unethical. I guess I'll have to think about that. But no, it basically talked about the social, emotional, and academic needs of the students and making sure that we're meeting those and not just, okay, the student already gets all the stuff I'm going to teach them all year. I don't have to teach them anything. Instead, give them areas to dive a little bit deeper. The other thing it talked about was expect the gifted students to be well behaved. I think that's really interesting because that's actually one of the signs I think that they talk about at the younger age levels of identifying gifted kids. A lot of times they're the ones that do get bored and get off topic and off task because they can have a tendency to act out when they're younger. It's obviously presents a little bit different in high school, which is the level that I'm at. Um, and the other thing, they say not to do is to give them more work just because they finish early. Like, everybody has 20 math problems. Well, here, you get to do 10 or 10 more extra ones or whatever it is. And so try to avoid that. Um, Isolate them, have them work independently without oversight, which is something that can kind of happen. Hey, like you're doing a really good job. Why don't you go over here and work on this while I work with everybody else? And then they fail to get instruction and attention. Um, and then the other thing that I think is interesting is, and it is sometimes when we find a student that we see, you know, see them as someone who excels in an area, we can kind of have that same level of expectation in other areas, and that's not accurate. And so to make sure that we're figuring out what areas, not having unrealistic expectation in other areas. Um, And so the do's they talked about figure out what areas students are gifted, right? So that kind of complements that last don't that they talked about. So they kind of work off each other, and so figure out where their strengths are, figure out where their strengths aren't, so that way you can provide appropriate instruction. Ensure that the tasks um, demands and that the task and the assessments are rich in content, to make sure that we're not just trying to give them that busier work to try to keep them busy because they're able to excel through things, but just to make sure that we're really providing them with the opportunity to develop their thinking skills, creative activities, and things like that. So um, it's always they talked about finding other gifted students and to kind of create opportunities for them to work together. I feel like that's kind of what our SAGE program does, is it gives them an outlet. Um, Also talks about learning about their special diverse population of learners, just getting to know that more, and kind of like what I already talked about. Apparently I'm not the only person, but basically this idea to take classes, get better educated in how to deal with gifted students. Um, And then, as you know, just like any good teacher article, it's going to talk about implementing research-based curriculum, right? So we always want our research, evidence-based ways that we can implement um, curriculum and instruction for students that are gifted. So, and that kind of wraps up the what that article was about. So, thanks and have a great day.